It's Fully Threaded Radio, episode 212.
There's always a conversation piece to be had because, an American will fully understand it, having lived there, grown up there, whatever. But for those that haven't, there's almost like you have to bridge the gap to explain a little bit in further detail because all they see is what the news media gives. And sometimes that's not the full story. And so there's been really good conversations around that. A full understanding, I wouldn't go that far, but
there's certainly no lack of news on a daily basis, and it's a lot of it's down to kind of understanding the message behind the message or what the goals really are. So if tariffs are the only goal, that's one thing, but I think there's a lot of other things and other bargaining chips on the table behind those.
I'm still waiting for the price of eggs to come down.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the mighty FCH sourcing network. If you buy, sell, manufacture, import, try to import.
Are terrified of importing?
Yes, despite whatever may come, distribute, the game. If you are in the fastener business, this is the podcast for you. Hi, everyone. Eric Dudas with you. Brian Musker is here. Get any fan mail after that last one, Bri?
No, but I don't really get much fan mail anyway.
You probably do, but you just don't check your email very often is the thing.
I check it often enough, okay?
That's what I'm thinking. Well, I know you're not out on Twitter at all, so the outage today makes no difference to you whatsoever, but a lot of the world was up in arms because of the cyber war going on out there. Did you get any reason to think that was a thing today, Bri?
Well, you told me, so I am very aware of it, but I'm saying that Twitter's not the only company that's had problems with attacks lately. There's plenty of them.
Yes, you're telling me. Okay, well, we're not going to get into that too much on this episode 212 of Fully Threaded Radio. We're going to drop this one on March 11th, 2025, right before we head off to the Pacific West Tabletop. It's happening later this week, but we're going to jam in a fast episode in our new condensed format. Of course, the fastener industry is talking nonstop about the tariff situation and the fallout thereof. Fastener Technology International editor Mike McNulty's got Scott McDaniel with Martin on with him today. They're going to go over the latest FDI, and if you don't think the tariff news was playing into the latest report, well, maybe you didn't see it yet.
Maybe, but how could you not be aware of it?
Yeah, actually, the base number isn't too bad, but forward-looking sentiments may be getting a little wobbly because of that anyway. Mike and Scott go over that, plus Marco Rodriguez with Cresa has his quarterly industrial warehouse space leasing report for us on the Fastener News Report.
Okay, good.
Then Carmen will help us to bring out our inner Joe Greenslade as he presents another Fastener Training Minute. This time, it's an extremely short episode, and he's going to explain to you why you have to be really careful if you're dealing with an ASTM versus an SA 193 or 194.
ASME, yes, I know. Very confusing.
These deal with very specific high-pressure situations. He's handling a problem that a client has right now on that. We squeezed in a training minute about that.
Right. Yes, it's very confusing, actually, and very easy to slip past and just think ASTM A193, but it's ASME SA 193. I have fallen into that trap.
Don't be like Brian, folks. Listen to Carmen today.
Right.
And we'll kick things off with a conversation with our friend Dee Ward. You might recall he's based in Malaysia these days, but he finds himself jaunting all over that part of the world in his current role as Senior Vice President, Asia, Pacific, and Africa for Würth Industry.
Right. Well, he's sort of used to living in different places.
That's right. He's a globetrotter, and I thought it would be good to catch up with him. Well, just to say hello, but also I wanted to see what the perspective on all this tariff brouhaha is from a different part of the world. So we cover that on this segment with Dee.
Good. Yep.
And further to the tariff issue, Bri, and to the listeners, actually, if you've been doom surfing the headlines lately and feel the pessimism setting in, like you're seeing a clear picture emerging and you don't really like it, well, stick around to the final segment today. We'll take a look at a time in the not too distant past when one of the smartest people on the planet, Bri, got it wrong.
Right. I'm not sure. Maybe I'd hope he would be able to not get it wrong about imposing tariffs. Because I think looking at lots of things, including the share market, the view is not that positive.
Point is, you really never know what's right around the corner. Anyway, there's hope.
Good. I'm glad.
As this story will attempt to underscore.
Okay. Good. I'm ever hopeful. Okay.
And we hope you enjoyed the podcast, folks, and that you'll let our partners know you appreciate them making it possible for us to bring it to you. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, Tested, Tried, True, Brighton Best, Goebel Fasteners, Quality the First Time, Go Goebel, and Star Stainless. Right off the shelf, it's Star. Fully Threaded is also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, Fastener Technology International, InSequel Software, Fastener Fair USA, J-Land Franco, Solution Industries, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Worth Industry USA. You can send Brian some email, but he probably won't see it, so send it off to ftr@fullythreadedradio. I'll forward it over to him.
Right. It's sort of possible that Brian at fastestclearinghouse.com isn't really directing quite properly, but whatever. Okay.
Always a possibility. However, we're both out there on LinkedIn. That's another surefire way if you want to ring our bell. Of course, we got some nice little updates happening on the fullythreaded.com website, cleaning that up after kind of looking, suboptimal for a while since we moved over to the new platform. But one of our buddies is helping us out there, and it's looking a little smoother these days. So slow but sure progress, and I guess that's the way we do it around here, huh?
Yes. Hopefully not quite so slow, okay? But very sure.
That's true, Bri, and we should be going faster. And I'll tell you, if you like speed, you're going to like the NASCAR simulator at Fastener Fair USA.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's right. Craig Penland and Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, they're celebrating their anniversary by sponsoring the NASCAR simulator this year at Fastener Fair. That's coming up in May, FastenerFairUSA.com. And pretty much all our partners are going to be out there, Bri. I was scanning down the exhibitor list, and it looks like it's shaping up to be another great event. Got a call from Marty Nolan, and he's doing his magic in the after hours department. Many of you who have been attending, Fastener Fair and Vegas know that there's usually somewhere, usually the night of or the night before the show starts, there's a Marty party somewhere.
All right.
So that's brewing right now. We'll get the word out to you when all that gets settled. Fastener Fair USA, NASCAR. Wow, it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah, time is flying. You are right.
Which is true for this episode of Fully Threaded Radio as well, folks. We sure do appreciate you clicking in. So let's jump over to this conversation with Dee Ward.
Yeah.
All right, Dee Ward's back with us. Dee, great to speak with you again.
Hey, thanks for having me on again.
Well, it's been several months. It seems longer, but man, you've traveled many miles since we last spoke over there in Malaysia, I guess you are right now. And you just spent your first Chinese New Year's over there. What was that like?
Loud, exciting. Yeah, it was funny. We came back for Christmas just for 2 weeks. We flew back from Asia to Florida, to home. My oldest son had just graduated from Marine Corps boot camp. And so I was able to reconnect with him after 13 weeks in boot camp. He was able to come home for a week. And so got to connect with him. And then we flew back on the 30th of December. And on the way back to Asia, you lose an entire day. So when we landed, it was already January 1st. So we missed the New Year excitement then. But then, at the end of January, we had the Chinese New Year, and that was super exciting. The neighbor threw a block party, had a lion dance, catering, the whole 9 yards. It was a lot of fun. So week long of fireworks and booms, and my dog absolutely hated it.
Yeah, some things are universal, aren't they?
That's right. It was a good time. It was a lot of excitement.
Was it a hard time getting your dog over there? I never thought of that when you moved to Asia.
Brutal. Yeah, the amount of paperwork for the dog was probably more than it was for me and my family.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I never thought of that. Well, I'm sure you're having a lot of fun and learning lots of new things, but what a great way to kick everything off. All right. So you're, I'm sure, not as bothered by the tariffs as a lot of folks listening to this are, because you're not exporting to the U.S. mostly, from what I understand. But what kind of reactions are you measuring from people around there with the word of the new tariffs? Because I could tell you it's all that's buzzing around here.
Yeah. I remember, we went through this in, I think, 2016. I remember when all that came through, and I remember the chaos that ensued with it. But from our side here in Asia, I mean, it's really not a topic. It's not a hot topic. I'll put it that way. It does come into play sometimes, but it's pretty quiet. Actually, the presidential election was a lot bigger buzz just because of the impact globally that the U.S. has when we have an election year. And so that was the hot topic. But since then, the tariffs have been pretty quiet. Not a lot from my side, other than just trying to relay back to our team members there in the U.S. Any information that I hear or see here in Asia.
Huh. Okay. So you say there was a lot of attention paid to the U.S. election, and that's not surprising because, let's face it, we've got our fingers in everything. So with all the headlines with Doge and all this going on right now, is that getting any ripples out there?
No, I mean, for the most part, when you reside outside of the U.S. As a U.S. citizen, obviously you resonate with it. You check news media and whatnot to keep up to date. But for those that aren't U.S. citizens that are living abroad, other expats, I think they see it. They don't fully understand it in a lot of ways, as an American would. And so there's always a conversation piece to be had because an American will fully understand it, having lived there, grown up there, whatever. But for those that haven't, there's almost like you have to bridge the gap to explain a little bit in further detail, because all they see is what the news media gives, and sometimes that's not the full story. And so there's been really good conversations around that. A full understanding, I wouldn't go that far, but it does open up a lot of conversations.
Right. So likewise, there was some fairly dramatic election results out of Germany this past week. Does that get resonance there also, or?
Well, I mean, for us, it does. Obviously, being a German-owned company,
Exactly.
It majorly impacts what happens inside of the headquarters. So for us, it's just again, I'll reiterate what I said about the U.S. I don't fully understand everything that happens in Germany. I just see what the news media gives, but I've yet to have full conversations with those inside of Germany to get their opinion and to get their take on it. And so I think there's a lot of value in doing that. But for right now, it doesn't really impact. We'll see what happens. I'm sure it will at some point, but positive or negative from my side, I don't know yet.
Well, I'm guessing that you're going to see a little evidence of tariffs, if not from direct disruptions to your business, then for sure with U.S. suppliers going to India to look at possible new sources. Because I've been talking with some suppliers from here. They're getting a lot of pressure from their customers to make sure they've got redundancies in place. You never know. And some of them are looking closely at India now. Do you see any evidence of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, really in Asia, it's a really hard focus on localization. It happened in China during COVID. A lot of foreign direct investors left. And so therefore the entire market shifted in China to where they were really focusing on how to localize from suppliers, investors, et cetera. And the same thing similar is happening in India. The difference is right now, India is on a 7% growth rate. And so you've got the power of the growth rate plus the localization. The government in India has actually put out several things regarding fasteners specific to where distributors have to buy inside of India based on the product and or the volume. And so what that's done is opened up a wide array of suppliers to jump in and enhance their capacity. We're doing it inside of, our company in India right now is actually trying to expand the supplier market. And so no different than globally, everybody's looking to India to see, hey, what are the capacities? What can we do? How can we grow it?
Are you making it yourself to India these days?
Yeah, I was there back in October. I've got another trip planned, I think, here in the next few weeks. Don't have it scheduled yet, but we've got two locations, 2 brick and mortar locations in India. And then I've got sales teams all throughout the country. So I'll usually fly into Delhi. It's the easiest route from Kuala Lumpur to Delhi, see some of the sales guys there, and then make my way to Pune, which is where our office is. And then we also have a facility in Chennai.
Yeah, getting those frequent flyer miles there, D.
Always. Vietnam this week and Bangkok the next, then I'll be in China. And then the end of the month in March, I'll be in Australia for a week. So yeah, definitely on the move.
Well, you're seeing a lot of new things. Let me ask you this, since you've taken on your new role with Worth, what's the biggest surprise that you've had?
Biggest surprise? That's a great question. I told the team before I came, my team here, I'm an American and there's nothing that I can do to ever be Asian, but I will try my best to be Asian. And so it's the same thing when we lived in Brazil for 3 years and loved living in Brazil, had an absolute blast. It's a great culture, but I was never Brazilian, but I tried my best to be Brazilian. And so coming here, because I have 13 companies that I oversee, and they're in 11 different countries, the biggest surprise for me is just how diverse we are. Even in Asia, everybody, from an American concept, you can put Asia in a box, and it's not like that at all. It is so different from country to country. Not just the culture, but even actually how you do business is way different. So if you take Japan, for example, we just opened a company in Japan in June, and the culture and the way that business is conducted in Japan is far different than it is here in Malaysia. And so that's one of the biggest surprises, I guess you would say, is how to navigate doing business along with the cultural aspect.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah, well, the culture outside the U.S. to some people is just one big monolith, but clearly that's not really the way the world is.
Exactly right.
Well, getting back to the comment you made about trying to be Brazilian in Brazil, I remember on an earlier episode you were telling us, didn't your kids pick up Portuguese while you were there?
Yeah. So my wife and I are both fluent in Portuguese. Once you hit a certain language level, you retain that as an adult. But my kids were so young; they were 5, 3, and
they were raised on it.
Newborn, yeah. And we were only there for 3 years, but they picked it up so fast. And then once we got back to the U.S., they lost it just as fast. So yeah, it's incredible how fast kids pick things up, especially with the language when they're young.
Yeah. Okay, well, you also are fluent in the language of baseball.
This is true.
Yes, here in North America, baseball season's right around the corner. And of course, you're hardcore and you've done a lot of coaching. So in your current role, or I don't know, are you going to be able to find time even to do any coaching over there?
No coaching, sadly. So my boys go to an international school, and one of the first questions they asked when we came over to do the tour of the school, the admissions officer was asking, background, and I told her I was baseball coach, and she immediately asked, "You want to start a team?" I said,
Cool.
I appreciate it. I'm going to have my hands full. So no coaching right now, but I do get my baseball fix every now and then. If I've been to a game in Korea, I've been to a game in Japan. I've not been to Taiwan yet, so those are the 3 countries that have baseball. But I do get my fix every now and then. And then if we're planning on returning in June for a few weeks, and so maybe while I'm back stateside, I'll be able to catch a game.
Oh, that is so cool. Yeah. Now, what are the concessions like compared to Wrigley Field or the like?
Well, it's not. They're similar. It's just not quite the same. I will say this: baseball in the U.S. is, it's America's favorite pastime, right? And so it's a casual. You can go take in a game, whether you understand it or not is irrelevant. You can go and sit and have conversations, and Japan and Korea, I'll speak for those two. I don't know about Taiwan. I'd assume it's the same. It's more like a football or basketball game because of the amount of cheerleading that goes on, the songs. It is very, very lively. It's like going to an American football game. It is a lot of hype, but it is a ton of fun. I will say that.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Well, we're going to have a lot of fun coming up in, October this year, I think, right? For International Fastener Expo out in Vegas. And you gave me word before we turned the recorder on. You're making it out there. That's awesome.
Yep, I'm excited to see everybody. I miss the network in the U.S. and miss all of the people in the fastener world, connecting with them on a regular basis. So, yep, the plan is for me to come back to IFE this year and reconnect and bridge the gap. I've started to build a network here in Asia, and so it'll be nice to kind of bridge the gap between both. It'll be exciting.
That is great news. Well, look forward to seeing you then, Dee, and probably talking to you beforehand. But sure do appreciate you talking with me today because it's always a pleasure. And, well, let's just say it this way. It's nice to have friends in high places.
No, I appreciate it. It's always good to be on here, and it's always good to connect. And I wish everybody the best. Hope everybody is doing well.
Dee Ward, Senior Vice President, Würth Industry, Asia Pacific and Africa.
Fastener Talk Radio. It's like feng shui for the fastener industry. Brian and Eric, Fully Threaded Radio.
With Star Stainless, our personalized service and nationwide network of distribution centers allows you to order rivets, hose clamps, and fasteners from one source. Star continues to be your one-stop shop to consolidate vendors, reduce transactions, and save on shipping costs. Choose Star Stainless for a comprehensive inventory that meets all your hardware needs. Star Stainless Screw Company is a division of Linfast Solutions Group.
Goebel Fasteners increases efforts to maintain its reputation as the leading rivet source with a large inventory of parts and expedited delivery options. We have over $10 million worth of global inventory at stock at all times and pride ourselves on same-day or next-day shipping options that are available to all our customers. Goebel Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
At Brighton Best International, we're serious about stocking domestic fasteners for our distributors. Our inventory is not only extensive, but expanding to include socket cap screws, hex cap screws, nuts and washers, structural products, our exclusive L9 fastening system, weld products, and more. Proudly made in the USA. Approach Brighton Best International for all your domestic fastener needs. Visit us at brightonbest.com.
Hello, this is Kevin Godin of AFC Industries. You are listening to Brian and Eric on Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric back with you, and it's the news segment. Once again, the top news item on everybody's mind in the fastener industry, and probably anybody else who's in business here in North America, is the tariffs. So the lovely and talented Lynn Dempsey sent me a cutout, Bri, from the Chicago Tribune business section.
Well, you know, she actually likes the printed form, though she does use her phone frequently, but she likes to read a newspaper.
Yes, she does. She's a little old school on that.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, now it's going to seem like light years from this moment, but keep your eyes open for the next Link magazine. I've got a story that touches on that idea a little bit. Anyway, this article that she sent me in the Tribune quotes Jim Derry of Field Fastener, and the headline was "Tariff Wars Leave U.S. Small Business Nowhere to Hide." This was from February 25th, 2025. And really, it's not a very surprising story. They're just saying that these tariffs are going to wreak havoc on small business, and they'll have to pass the cost increases along. And Jim Derry was referenced in this thing.
Right. Well, he sort of said, well, some of the bigger people, they can absorb a little bit or they can do much different deals. But if you're a smaller distributor, you don't have much leeway.
Well, the big guys have volume, and they've got a lot more leverage over their trading partners, but I guess the point's well taken. Anyway,
yeah, right.
further proof that the fastener industry is making headlines as if we needed it.
Yeah.
A little more calming news before we jump over to Mike McNulty.
Please.
The Southeastern Fastener Association has their spring conference coming up April 29th to May 1st. It's down in Florida, Bri. I know you just got back from there, but if you want to head back, looks like it's a pretty nice event. They've got Football Hall of Famer Derek Brooks as their keynote.
Oh, cool.
They'll be playing golf, pickleball, having a good old time like the Southeastern Association is known. And I don't believe we've ever given that group a moniker like we have so many of the other associations. So I'm just going to assign one right here. It occurred to me while I was looking up this web address, which is thecfa.com. So, you know, we've got the MWFA, the best dressed of all the associations, PacWest, the grooviest, and so forth. The CFA, we're going to call them the coolest URL of all the fastener associations. What do you think of that?
Yeah. It's interesting. The CFA, yeah.
TheCFA.com, Southeastern Fastener Association Spring Conference. Look it up if that's in your marketing plan this year. Hey, they always have a good time. All right. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Star Stainless, Global Fasteners, and Brighton Best International. And of course, the news segment is brought to us by Volt Industrial Plastics. I'm pretty sure Heidi's going to be there at the Southeast. Bri, that's her stomping grounds.
Well, one of them, I think she stomps pretty widely.
She does. She is a wide stomper. Volt Industrial Plastics is everywhere, but that's down home for them. And on the topic of stomping, one more thing.
Yeah.
Don't forget that Fastener Mud Racing is back. I got a message from Bob GQ Bear. Of course, he's the spiritual leader of the Rugged Nuts. That's the name of the Fastener Mud Racing team that has done various races over the years. I think this is the 6th year. Last year was a little messed up, but this year it's an actual Tough Mudder race, and it's happening on August 23rd out there in Chicagoland. It's actually Rockford, but that's in connection with the MWFA Fastener Week, which happens the following week. So this is sort of the unofficial kickoff. Now, we'll be talking a lot more about that on the podcast as time goes on, but
yes,
you should get yourself involved in this if you're even mildly interested, because some people on the team are taking this very seriously, and they're already pretty well into training. Others, Jake Valdez Davis, for example, are a little more relaxed in their approach to the race prep process. But whatever your flavor, it's a really accommodating team.
And you can have a lot of fun.
You can have a lot of fun.
Yeah. You don't have to try and win this event. You can have fun just by being there.
Nor do you even have to do every obstacle if there's one or two that scare the hell out of you. You know, I'm right now, Bri, really kind of bothered by this whole ice water event. We haven't had to go through one of those, and I'm kind of getting the feeling like that may happen this time.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't sound great to me either, being someone who can't stand the cold.
Yeah. Kirk Zender's laughing at me. Well, we'll take it as it comes. That's what I say. I don't even know if it's on there for sure, but get out to toughmudder.com if you want to just look generally at the race. Reach out to Bob GQ Bear or Jake Valdez Davis or Bobby Wagner. Who else? GH3. Those 4 guys, they're all sort of organizing the roster. There will probably be, I would say, on the low end 30 this year on the team, high end 50, which would be really cool.
Wow. Okay.
And of course, Brian and Lynn will be your armor bearers should you need them. I think last time you were carrying quite a few pairs of glasses and backpacks and stuff for people.
Yeah. Yeah. While I'm running around trying to take movies of different parts of the place.
Your service to the team is invaluable, you guys.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And now it's time to shift the focus of the podcast to the most focused guy in the fastener news business. And that can only mean one thing, Bri.
Oh, yes. Right. For news about screws that you can use, here's Mike McNulty.
Thanks, Eric and Brian. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report, which is sponsored by Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. Major League Baseball spring training is in full swing in Florida and Arizona. Many government workers are in fear of being found out, and the tariff chaos has reached a whole new level of madness. But I am still focused on fasteners and ready to deliver today's Fastener News Report. In this episode, Martin Fastening Solutions Executive Vice President and NFD President Scott McDaniel joins us to reveal the latest results of the Fastener Distributor Index, also known as the FDI. Also in today's broadcast, we have our top story on TriMas Aerospace and newsmaker headlines from Safety Socket, AFC Industries, GWR Fasteners, Fontana, Field Fastener, Echo Bolt, Brighton Best International, and more. And on the back page report, we're going to talk about Shop Class. And we also have Marco Rodriguez of Cresa with his quarterly industrial warehouse space leasing report. We'll get to all of that and the latest FDI results right after this.
Hey there, Fastener distributors. This is Heidi Voltrauer from Volt Industrial Plastics. As a fellow fastener industry business, Volt knows you are always on the lookout for ways to help your customer while keeping costs in check. So, why not plastic? Listen, there's no argument that metal fasteners have to be used for certain applications, but when strength isn't the primary concern, why not explore the saving benefits of plastic? You not only save your company money, but also pass those savings on to your valued customers. It's as easy as picking up the phone or sending a quick email. Our team at Volt makes sourcing easy, and we look forward to helping you find exactly what you need when you need it. So, for all of your plastic fastener needs, you know the website, voltplastics.com. Please come by our booth at Fastener Fair. Hope to see you.
Rock rebels and industrial icons, it's time to crank that volume to 11. EuroLink is taking the world stage to celebrate their 25th anniversary tour. You've heard our monster singles, Rock Solid Metric Fasteners, Shut Up in Surface, Never a No Quote Jungle, GM Quality Metric Parts with lightning fast delivery. Join the EuroLink tour. We're here to rock your metric fastener world. EuroLink, 25 years of rockin' hard to find metric fasteners delivered.
Solution Man, Ken.
Solution Man, you're my fastener hero.
Just doing my job, ma'am.
SOLUTION, Solution Industry. We are Solution.
You're listening to Mike McNulty's Fastener News Report on Fully Threaded Radio.
The seasonally adjusted Fastener Distributor Index for February 2025 rallied to 51.6 after its lackluster 47.6 reading in January. This was the first above 50 reading since October of 2024. The forward-looking indicator, also known as the FLI, continued its slide, impacted by challenging news on tariffs, dipping to 47.3 versus 49.9 last month. Fastener Distributor Index data is collected and analyzed by the FCH Sourcing Network and Baird. The FDI seeks to identify demand, pricing, and outlook trends within the American fastener distribution industry. To get some insight into these results, we're going to talk to Martin Fastening Solutions Executive Vice President and NFDA President Scott McDaniel. Hi, Scott. Thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
Thank you very much, Mike. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you back. Last time you were on was in October when the FDI was pretty robust at 59 and 50.5 for the FLI. So what do you think about the latest results?
Well, it is certainly interesting. I think there's been a lot of, I think last time we spoke, there was a lot of uncertainty about the election and going into what that was going to look like. And that seems like years ago now. I think right now with the FDI, it certainly feels in our business and with people I talk to is that, feels like we're building some momentum. But as you mentioned, the headwinds of the tariffs has got everybody a little bit spooked. And depending on your point of view and whether you think they're negotiating chips or negotiating targets or here to stay, it will certainly have an impact on our industry and a lot of America.
Yeah, that was definitely the theme of this report, and we'll get into some of the comments. I think it might be one of our longest comment section that we've had in a while, mostly on the tariffs and what's going to do. But before we get into that, let's look at the numbers. The sales numbers and all the pricing numbers, the month-to-month and the year-to-year went up dramatically this time, while supplier deliveries and respondent inventories went up a little bit, and employment and customer inventories dropped modestly. Anything insights into the numbers there?
So, certainly, I thought it was interesting that the responded inventories are actually the highest at any point in the last 12 months, and supplier deliveries are, I think, at a three or one of the highest 3 months. The pricing certainly was. I was surprised that anybody seeing the impact of it yet, because while there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of theorizing, we haven't seen a lot of actualized impacts yet. But we know it's coming very, very soon and very quickly.
Yeah. So just as we shake off inflation, we get price increases from tariffs. So.
Which is just seems a lot of the tariffs, at least for in my viewpoint, the tariffs just kind of feel like a price increase. It's not our supplier getting it, but it's not us either. So
right, when you do the blanket stuff, it just everything goes up.
Yeah, for sure.
Targeted against companies that are bad actors, then that makes sense to me. The blanket stuff does not.
No.
So the other number that I want to talk about a little bit is the PMI, the Purchasing Managers Index, and it kept its head above 50 for the second straight month. It dipped slightly to 50.3 versus 50.9 the prior month, but that is the first time since 2022 that it's been above 50. So it's still above 50, so that's a good sign, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's a lot of positives in that. And again, I think coming into this year, there's a lot of optimism. At least it felt like it from people I've talked to and from our own teams. But it's there's the realism of the impending tariffs. I think it went from just a talking point or something that was out there in the future to something that people are spending hours a day on conference calls and trying to understand. And even now I think there's still some misunderstandings from people. I know I was talking to somebody last week and they said, "Oh no, this isn't us. We're in Taiwan and we're not in China." I said, "No, there's this is coming for everybody." So it's different this time around.
Causing a lot of disruption and changing basically every day. And
yes.
Okay, the last set of numbers, we have the 6-month outlook, and that retreated a bit to a somewhat gloomy 44% thinking it's going to be better in 6 months, 24 the same, and 32, which is kind of a high back end number. 32 think it's going to be worse 6 months down the road. That's retreated from last month. It was 50, 33, and 17. So almost doubled up on the number of people who think it's going to be worse 6 months from now.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's just the reality getting closer for the tariffs and the uncertainty. I was talking to one of my friends the other day that's not in the fastener industry, amazingly enough, and he was when we were talking about, I was asking him what they were doing with tariffs. He's like, "Oh, we don't even see that." He's like, we don't buy anything from China. They're domestic manufacturer, domestic producer. In kind of the tourism or service industry. So for him, it was just a news article. I think for us in the fastener industry, it's a lot closer to home. It's a lot more real. And again, but I also think that I talked to my team about this the other day. I've always viewed fasteners are the high transaction, low value products. They can shut a line down at any point if you don't have them. But if I've often used our products often make up half of the SKU count of a bicycle or a car or a snowmobile or a ceiling fan, but make up 2 to 3% of the overall value. So while it's certainly impactful to us, my hope is that the overall value the overall impact doesn't negatively harm the economy and the growth that we see in front of us. So I think there could be a little bit of people being overly pessimistic on some of these things, but it is certainly for us when we deal with metal all the time, it is very real and very impactful
and emotional. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, the folks at ITR Economics put out a recent blog post where they're saying that the tariffs are a problem, but they're not going to cause a recession.
Yep,
they might for Canada and Mexico. That's what they
they could. And if we can get the price of eggs under control, hopefully by the time this is out, eggs have come down and gas stays low. People will be a little bit happier.
Yeah, the egg situation is kind of funny.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Any other comments on the data or the numbers before we jump into the respondent commentary?
No. Again, I think that there's still a lot of optimism out there. Again, depending on your some of your political viewpoints or which papers or websites you read, there's certainly no lack of news on a daily basis, and it's a lot of it's down to kind of understanding the message behind the message or what the goals really are. So if tariffs are the only goal, that's one thing, but I think there's a lot of other things and other bargaining chips on the table behind those.
All right, well, let's jump into the comments. And like I said, these are heavy on tariffs and also concerns about whether they'll upset the expected recovery of 2025. And then it also ends with some people that are having some decent results nonetheless. So the first one is we are raising pricing to offset some of the tariffs. We are also expecting increased activity as some customers are attempting to beat tariffs most likely coming. So buying ahead of tariffs, I guess. The next one is the tariff situation is causing uncertainty regarding pricing in the near future. Already touched on that. And then this is the longest comment. So it says, quote, there were plenty of visible green shoots in our industrial business coming up into the new year that shriveled and died in February. The tariff changes, expansions pack quite a big punch for so much of our industry and greater economy, and it seems inevitable at this point that the drag on inflation will soon renew. Our revised assumption is that the long overdue recovery will be postponed in the near term. The short version is that this sucks for all involved. Fingers crossed that in the long term, some good comes out of all of this, end quote. Anything to add to that?
No, I think that there's a lot of truth in all those things. I think from the from the green shoots comment, in our business, I think we had a lot of green shoots, and most of them, I don't think any of them really shriveled up and died. Some are going straight ahead, some are a little bit delayed, but that's to be expected with any of those things. So trying to beat tariffs and the timing of those things, I think one thing that's different this time, when the first round of tariffs went in 8 years ago, a lot of people tried to move products out of China or tried to move from China to Taiwan or China to Malaysia or India. And if everybody gets a tariff, China will obviously have a higher one. But if everybody else has a tariff, there's not much where people will be able to do to avoid that. And I also think that there's, my personal view is these are here to stay, at least for the next 4 years and maybe longer, considering that the first round of tariffs stayed through the last administration. So, whether it's a trend, to me, it's less transient. Doesn't feel like something that's, going to be in place for 6 months or a year. Just feels like this is the new normal for now. But again, the U.S. has had a pro-tariff position a long time ago in the U.S. And it's like anything else. There's things can change quickly, but there's I think understanding what history teaches us. There's people I've heard the saying, history doesn't always repeat, but it often rhymes. So I think there's certainly lessons to be learned there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Looking back at what's happened, and got to make adjustments and move forward.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, the next couple of comments are more on performance for the month of February. It said, this one is the month of February 2025 was only $15,000 shy of being our biggest selling February of all time. This is on the backside of a January 2025 being our biggest selling January of all time. So far, so good this year. Good news from that contributor. Then the next one is very good, strong month in February following a solid January, keeping our fingers crossed that March will follow suit and not get blown up by tariff woes. So that's the second person going to the finger crossing.
There's a lot of that around.
Right. And then next one said, we got just two more. Starting to see some of the results of the new administration in our day-to-day business. Tariff concerns have driven demand of domestically manufactured screws slightly higher. We're hopeful that demand for domestically threaded fasteners continues at a moderate rate throughout the year, end quote. So what do you think? Is it going to change the demand of domestic fasteners a lot, or just moderately?
I think moderately. I think there's, certain things are just needed when there's people need automobiles to drive, when there's people need power generation or new appliances or power tools for their homes. They will. I think consumers have shown a remarkable resilience to pricing over the last 6-8 years, 4 years maybe. So it's nothing continues to get cheaper. Everything's gotten more expensive over time. But again, I think with the the policies in place, and one thing I would say is one thing we're looking at is trying to identify ways to help our customers operate better, more efficiently, driving greater value to offset some of those tariff impacts that are unavoidable at this point.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got one more comment. It says, we expect that regardless of tariff impacts, manufacturing and fastener sales will return to normal. We appear to be in a down cycle showing signs of reversal.
For sure. I think, and again, depending on the markets, the automotive market in the U.S. is still a little bit depressed. The ag market is certainly very depressed, but I think there's been some signs of recovery from people I've talked to, and other areas. I mentioned the power generation and energy transmission markets are continuing to perform very well.
All right. Anything else to add on the FDI or the FLI before we give you a chance to tell the listeners of what's going on at Martin Fastening and the NFDA?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to come on and share my thoughts, and it's always interesting to see what else is out there in the marketplace. It's certainly been a little bit of a roller coaster, and I think that there's, like anything else, it makes the days go by very quickly, and it's always good to be able to solve new problems and identify ways that we can help our team, help our suppliers, as well as help our customers.
And sell some fasteners, right? As Eric likes to say.
That's right. That is right.
All right. So what's going on at Martin Fastening Solutions?
We are continuing to grow. We just opened up a new facility in Kansas last month to meet a new customer request. And later on in April, we're actually having a Special Olympics charity golf tournament in Muscle Shoals. So it's the Shoals Area Special Olympics golf tournament on April 28th. If anybody's in the area or is interested, you can check out the Martin website for some more information.
Very good. So, and then the benefactor of that is the Special Olympics.
Yes, Correct, for the Shoals area. So it's something very, very close to our hearts.
Very good. All right, it sounds good. Now, what about? I know I mentioned earlier you're also the president of the NFDA. Anything to report there?
Yeah, absolutely. We have our annual meeting coming up on from June 11th to the 13th in Charlotte, North Carolina. So we're having not only the annual meeting but also the ESPS, so a chance for people to talk with their customers and their suppliers. I think the Charlotte area will be. I've spent quite a bit of time there. I'm looking forward to it, and it's always great to catch up with other people in the industry. And I also believe that several of the older generation, the veterans from the fastener industry that may not have been in attendance at the last couple of annual meetings are planning to be at this one. So I'm looking forward to seeing them and reconnecting with some people I haven't seen in a couple of years.
So you call them the older generation?
Well, maybe the Hall of Famers. How about that?
Because I know it's a joke I make sometimes. You have the young fastener professionals, and it's like, well, maybe we need a mature fastener professionals group.
I think I'm firmly stuck right in the middle. My daughters will remind me all the time how old I am, but I still have a lot to learn and continue to learn every day. So every day I pick up something new.
Every generation and every age has something to add to the
absolutely.
team. Yeah.
We're better together.
Right. So you mentioned your daughter, and when we talked before you came on, you said you were getting ready for a move from St. Louis. You're moving to
Jackson, Tennessee? Yep, Jackson, Tennessee. So I have a 17-year-old son who's a high school senior. He'll be attending Southeast Missouri State in the fall for to be a pilot for an aviation degree, and then my daughter will be starting high school down in Jackson, Tennessee. So our fastener business is headquartered down there, and I'll also be closer to our headquarters in Florence, Alabama. So, and my wife is very excited. This is our 7th move in my career. So she's a fantastic decorator and takes great care of everything. So she's been busy planning out the transition to the new house, and
so she's a professional at it.
She is. She absolutely is. So much better than me. I just throw stuff around on the walls, but she makes sure everything looks good. So I'm very thankful, and she's always been extremely supportive of my career, and it's been a great ride so far, and looking forward to the next steps.
Yeah, I've heard lots of good things about that area down there and the whole. So
it is. It's definitely a growing area, and it's that whole kind of. It's about halfway between Nashville and Memphis, so it's a little bit better weather, but not a ton better than St. Louis, but a little bit better. But certainly a dynamic, growing area.
Very good. And your son going to be in the aeronautical, so that's there's definitely a lot of fasteners in those airplanes.
There is. So he's grown up in the kind of the industry with as my whole family has, because they hear us talk about it all the time at home. So it's been a real blessing to see them, both my kids, grow up and mature, and look forward to where their lives and their careers go.
Right. Well, sounds like a lot of good things going on at Martin Fastening, the NFDA, and also with your family. family. So good luck in all that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, good to have you back on. It was just, like I said earlier, it's the second time in the FDI seat. So you've done a good job. And both times you've been on, it's been over 50. So you have to keep track of your track record.
I hope to continue the streak.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
Thank you.
That was Martin Fastening Solutions Executive Vice President and NFDA President Scott McDaniel. The FDI number for February 2025 was 51.6 versus 47.6 in January. Visit FDIsurvey.com to participate in the process and get a detailed PDF copy of Baird's monthly analysis. Now for today's top story. TriMas Aerospace, Monogram Aerospace Fasteners, All Fast Fastening Systems, and Mac Fasteners brands have been awarded a multi-year global contract with Airbus, expanding the company's existing contract scope across all fastener business units and further strengthening TriMas Aerospace's position across the global Airbus supply chain. Vitaly Rusakov, Group President of TriMas Aerospace, said, quote, "We are honored to be a supplier of high-performance fastening solutions to Airbus. This contract reaffirms our commitment to delivering the best-in-class engineered products and advancing manufacturing technologies to meet the evolving needs of the aerospace industry," end quote. This extended agreement broadens TriMas Aerospace's reach across multiple Airbus civil and military fixed and rotary wing platforms, including but not limited to the A320, A350, and the A220. The contract incorporates next-generation fastening solutions and newly qualified products designed to optimize robotic assembly processes for aerostructures and major aircraft components. In addition, TriMas Aerospace continues to invest in state-of-the-art manufacturing equipment and advanced processes to accelerate performance, enhance capabilities, and drive efficiencies in aerospace fastening technology. TriMas Aerospace will be making the contracted fasteners in TriMas manufacturing sites in California and Kansas. Next up, today's Fastener Newsmaker headlines. In corporate news, a federal court upheld a jury verdict on counterfeiting in favor of Safety Socket. Keller and Kalmbach and Law NDT founded a fastener testing joint venture called MEXS. The IFE group partnered with Global Supply Chain Solutions. Staffa secured an exclusive dealership for fasteners made by August Friedberg. AFC Industries opened a facility in Monterrey, Mexico. GWR Fasteners acquired a new Citizen Mayano CNC machine. KL Jack bought a new 5,000 square foot warehouse. Grauer Metal announced its 75th anniversary celebration. Fontana Grupo acquired a majority ownership position in Wright Tight Fasteners. Field Fastener opened new facilities in Arkansas and Arizona. Whitecap acquired Chris Kahn Supply and Fasteners, and EchoBolt announced a new contract with RWE Renewables. In personnel news, Brighton Best International promoted Jennifer Lynn to manager of its Dallas branch. Phoenix Specialty Manufacturing announced the additions of Terry Cross as Materials and Purchasing Manager and Lisa Ricard as Quality Manager, as well as the promotion of Buck Freilich to Engineering Manager. Aeromed Group appointed Chris Ravenscroft as President of Aeromed International. Bolton Nut Manufacturing Limited named Ashley Nichols as its new Finance Director, and FDH Aero appointed Ian Walsh as its Chief Executive Officer. You can get details on all of these stories and more in Fastener Technology International Magazine and the Fastener News Report monthly newsletter, both available online at fastenertech.com. Next up, and before we turn to the Backpage Report, here is Marco Rodriguez from Cresa with his quarterly industrial warehouse space leasing report.
This is Marco Rodriguez with Cresa, providing FTR listeners with a quarterly industrial real estate update. As always, we've been digging into the data for the 7 major markets we track, and it's clear that industrial space isn't a one-size-fits-all situation. What's happening in one part of the country can be vastly different from another, and that has real implications for how you plan your warehousing, distribution, and production footprint. So let's start in the South. If you're operating in that region, pay attention to Atlanta. Still great value. Lease rates there are up 5.6% year over year, with the average asking rate about $8.70 per square foot. Dallas is also showing moderate growth at 4.3%, but rates are still below Atlanta at $8.69 per square foot. Now, Miami, considered a premium location primarily due to the lack of land availability and being surrounded by water. Lease rates are significantly higher at $19.78 per square foot, but growth is slowing down to only 2.4% 1%. For businesses in the South, these trends signal potentially rising operational costs, particularly if you're in growth markets like Atlanta and Dallas. Moving up north, we see a different picture. Chicago offers a sense of stability. Rent growth is a solid 4.1%, and the average rate is a reasonable $9.09 per square foot. If you value predictability and cost effectiveness, Chicago could be a region to consider your operations. Then we have New York. As always, it's a high cost market where lease rates are a whopping $19.20 per square foot. However, rent growth is starting to be flat at only 1.1%. For businesses in New York, this slow growth might mean some cost stability in the industrial space market, but it's still a high base cost to contend with. Let's switch gears to the West Coast. Here, we're seeing a bit of a shift. Los Angeles is actually experiencing a decrease in lease rates, down 6.3%, bringing the average rents to 17.57 cents per square foot. And the Inland Empire, which is still a key logistics hub, is also seeing rates decline by about 1.2% to $13.18 per square foot. For businesses on the West Coast, this could indicate a potential opportunity to negotiate favorable lease terms or expand operations into these areas. So what's driving these regional differences? The usual factors like vacancy rates, new construction, and overall business demand are always in play. But let's hone in on something that could have a direct impact on your supply chain and inventory strategies. The recent rescission of the Section 321 or de minimis tariff provision. Now, you might be wondering how this tariff change affects your operations. Many think rescinding Section 321 might reduce demand for industrial space, but I think it's actually likely to create more demand. And here's why it matters for your business. Section 321 allowed imports below $800 to avoid tariffs. Many companies sold cheap cell phone accessories and shirts online, shipping directly from Asia using overseas warehouses and cheaper labor. With that provision gone, those imports are going to become much more expensive. From an operational perspective, this likely means businesses will look to hold larger inventories in the U.S. You might see a shift towards increased domestic production to mitigate import costs. Either way, this points to a growing need for industrial space, more warehousing for inventory, potentially expanded distribution centers, and even more domestic manufacturing capacity. For you as business operators, this could mean needing to reassess your space requirements and potentially factoring in increased lease costs in certain areas if demand increases. We always recommend starting your lease renewal 12 to 18 months before the expiration date. This allows tenants to retain the most amount of leverage in the negotiation. One thing landlords fear the most is vacancy. Whether you are willing to move out or not, landlords are willing to make concessions if they believe there's a risk of your business is moving out. If you have more questions about markets I didn't cover or just want to talk about industrial real estate, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Marco Rodriguez with Cresa.
Now let's turn to the back page to talk about high school shop class. After 3 to 4 decades of decline and even an elimination, high school shop classes, also known as industrial arts courses or technical education classes, are on the rise and back in fashion. Thanks to rising tuition costs at traditional universities, limited job opportunities for recent graduates of colleges with ideological curricula and armies of administrators, the devaluation of the bachelor degree in the job market, the 2020 pandemic, and the upcoming threat of generative AI to white-collar workers, school districts around the USA are spending millions of dollars to expand and revamp shop classes for the 21st century. Earlier this month, the Wall Street Journal reported on this shop class revival. Here are a few highlights from the article. Hands-on skills are staging a comeback at leading-edge school districts driven by high college costs and the demand for more career choices. In a suburb of Madison, Wisconsin, Middleton High School completed a $90 million campus overhaul that included new technical education facilities. PBK, an architectural firm in Texas, is designing a $140 million career and technical education center for students at Spring Branch Independent School District in Houston. Ohio and other states are offering schools financial incentives for classes that lead to industry certifications in such high-demand jobs as pharmaceutical technicians and pipe fitters. And about 150 students at Sutherland High School in Sutherland, Oregon, take Josh Gary's woodworking class, a number equal to nearly half of the student body. The wood shop features laser cutters and computer-assisted routers, and last year the school opened a $750,000 metal shop. I think that this is a great, long overdue, and a common sense development that stirs up fond memories of my own time in shop classes in the late 1970s and early 1980s at Mayfield High School in Northeast Ohio. Woodworking class, metal shop, electronics lab, home maintenance class, and probably my favorite, a theoretical and hands-on class on internal combustion engines, which included a final project of disassembling, cleaning, fixing, and reassembling an engine from a non-working lawnmower donated to the school. The final test was to pull the cord to see if the lawnmower would start. Mine did, on the first try, and it remains one of the highlights of my days in high school. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report. Please send your news, pictures, comments, corrections, or complaints to me at mcnulty@fastenertech.com.
If you're a fastener distributor, please listen up. Hey, this is Steve Roebuck, mining specialist with J. Lanfranco Lock Nuts. Discover the incredible durability of J. Lanfranco Lock Nuts for yourself. The perfect choice for the mining industry, where only the toughest components can withstand the rigors of heavy machinery and harsh conditions. Designed with precision, these lock nuts ensure maximum safety and reliability, preventing loosening and costly downtimes. Your clients deserve the best fasteners, so give us a call at 1-855-694-3250 or send an email to mining@jlanfranco.com to learn more.
Since 1905, Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company have been supplying the world with high-quality fasteners. Our standard product lines include weld fasteners, braided weld screws, leg levelers, self-clinching hardware, clevis pins, rivet nuts, and various other fastener lines, allowing us to support virtually all types of industries. Buckeye Fasteners, more than just weld.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Carmen Vertullo with your Fastener Training Minute, coming to you from the Fastener Training Institute and Carver Labs in beautiful El Cajon, California. Today, I'm going to talk about a situation that is not yet resolved. I'm right in the middle of it, but I want to lay a little bit of groundwork for a possible future Fastener Training Minute. This topic has to do with ASME standards and particularly fastener standards that involve boiler and pressure vessels out of the ASME Boiler and Pressure Vessel Code, which is a very, very important code having to do with high pressure applications on Navy ships, nuclear power plants, other types of power plants. And as far as fasteners and all other kinds of material standards go, it's at the top of the list. It's up there with aerospace. It's very serious fastening standards. One of the interesting things about it, ASME, American Society of Mechanical Engineers, governs this, and we have lots of ASME fastener standards, but ASME incorporates some ASTM fastener standards into this code. They are generally fastener standards that are governed by the AO1 Committee on Iron and Steel, not the F-16 Committee on Fasteners. And two in particular that we're dealing with right now are ASTM A193 for bolting used in high pressure, high temperature applications, and ASTM A194, the companion standard for nuts used in those same applications. And the reason for this short training minute is to kind of send out a warning that if a customer orders a ASTM A193 product or A194 product, it's pretty straightforward how to get that done. Most companies are competent. They do it right. They know what they're doing. There is a companion standard that goes with them to govern quality assurance requirements and so on. But ASME and the Boiler and Pressure Vessel Code also publish the same exact standard, but they call it SA193 or SA194. And there are a few other bolting standards in there as well. And even though they are exactly the same, the interpretation of the requirements, especially for chemistry, is different. And you could easily end up thinking you can just take an ASTM A194 nut and use it as an SA194 nut, and you could have yourself in a little bit of a pickle doing that. So just a bit of a warning. Whenever you see SA193 or SA194, be sure the manufacturer is fully aware that it's not the same thing, even though the standards are exactly the same. The interpretation and the writing standards, or what I would call the mandatory appendixes that apply to the SA standard, is different than the ASTM standard. Well, I hope that's helpful. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Sometime in a future Fastener Training Minute, we may drill down on this, or it might be worth a webinar sometime. Well, I hope you learned something. This has been Carmen Vertullo with your Fastener Training Minute.
This is Tough Nutter Jake Valdez Davis here, and when I'm not training for the upcoming Tough Mudder race this August, I'm grabbing some Yubo Blend coffee and heading out to the next Fastener Association meeting. BTM Manufacturing is going to have a busy 2025, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone. Train hard, or not. See you in August.
This is Rosa, the preferred riveter at Brighton Bass International. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio with Eric and Brian.
Well, Brian, that was the shortest Fastener Training Minute that we've ever recorded, I believe. You got right to the point on that one.
Yeah, but it's a subject you could go back and revisit at length because it doesn't just apply to one single ASTM standard.
Well, like he said, he was just setting the table really for a bigger discussion, but this was really on his mind. And we had just gotten done recording again, and he did another one of these like close to 20-minute episodes. And I said, Carm, listen, man, I'm looking for a short segment here. We're trying to get a tight show. And he whipped this one out of his pocket, really. So I take what I can get with him, but appreciate all of it. Thanks, Carmen, for doing such a great job and a great service to the fastener industry every episode.
Yes, true.
Thanks also to D. Ward with Worth. Glad to hear you're going to be in Vegas this year for the International Fastener Expo.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yep, we'll talk to you then. Also, Mike McNulty and Scott McDaniel. Scott with Martin, of course, and he's the president of the NFDA these days. Appreciate your help. Marco Rodriguez with Cresa gave us his quarterly commercial leasing report. I know there's a lot of guys in the audience who find that info very valuable. Reach out to Marco on LinkedIn if you want to pick his brain on that any further.
Yep.
And of course, the title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio. Couldn't do it without you guys. Brighton Best International, Global Fasteners, and Star Stainless. Fully Threaded Radio is also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, Fastener Technology International, InSequel Software, Fastener Fair USA, J. Lanfranco, Solution Industries, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Worth Industry USA. You know the email address. It's ftr@fullythreaded.com. And yes, we are aware of the ongoing cyber wars.
Yeah.
Nobody's digging it. Everybody's trying to figure out what to do about it, including Elon Musk. And having Twitter go down today was, I think, a big shock for a lot of people. But hey, it happens. All right. Speaking of tech geniuses, Bri, we promised that we were going to roll out of here with a reference to the smartest person in the world getting it all wrong.
Right. Yes. Tell me.
Okay. Well, I was scratching my head here, really trying to think about how to put things in perspective as I usually do. Of course, thinking about tariffs, and then all we're really grinding on these days is AI and how to present an offering that actually does what it says and does something pretty cool in the process. The whole thing can be very overwhelming. And with the tariffs and so many people, as we've seen with the forward-looking indicator and so forth, there's a lot of stress and even some pessimism out there. Add to that a headline. I caught this on Zero Hedge a few days back.
Okay.
This is from a column by Porter Stansberry called "The World as You Know It is About to End." And he makes a good point of specifically saying how it's going to end. Don't worry, it's not the end. It's just an end to the way things were.
Good.
But in the process of doing that, he gives us all a cause to be optimistic, or at least to have a ray of hope.
I like rays of hope. actually.
Yes, he's trying to say that you can't always tell what is right around the corner. And he says, quote, "Here's one great example. In his 1996 book, The Road Ahead, Bill Gates foresaw how the internet would become part of our daily lives. At the time, few people in the world knew more about how your computer technology and communications networks were evolving and merging. Gates had a huge advantage over virtually every other investor in the world. In fact, there may have been no one in history ever to be in a better position to understand such a massive change in the world's economy. But Bill Gates did not mention search engines or social media in his book."
Yeah.
So I won't read it all here, but it goes on to say, just a few years after this book was published, a little company called Google came around and gobbled up a huge part of the internet, as well as Facebook. So search engine and social media as genres didn't even make it into Gates's thinking. And if you think these things don't have an impact on our world, well, I don't know what world you're living in, but we're living at a point right now where it's very, very difficult to see around the corner. And my guess is that we're going to be faced with things that are just as dramatic.
Well, yeah. Not everyone is smart all the time. I mean, a very smart guy was Steve Ballmer. 2007, when the iPhone came out, he said Apple was making a big mistake. It's way too expensive, and no one is going to pay $500 for a phone and doesn't have a keyboard. Okay?
Another great point. Well, we don't have to pick on Microsoft alone, Bri, for examples of people missing big changes coming up, especially when they relate to technology, you know. But I tied this into the whole tariff thing simply because I feel like the economy has a lot of similarities. There are so many moving pieces, variables, unknowns, and especially for guys like, well, I'll just speak for myself, you know, I get the headline version of what's actually going on. So hard to read into the tea leaves too deep.
Yeah. We'll wait and see. But I think that the sort of inconsistency of the on again, off again tariffs is what's freaked the market out.
Change is the only constant, right?
I'm still waiting for the price of eggs to come down.
Well, I don't know about that either, but I can tell you that on the next episode of Fully Threaded Radio, we'll have a pile of on-the-floor interviews from the Pacific West Fastener Association tabletop.
Cool.
We're heading off there right after we put this one to bed. Hope to see some of you out there, and we sure do appreciate you listening to the podcast.
Yep, stay positive.
Well, if guys like Gates and Ballmer were getting things like that wrong, Bri, I think there's hope for us yet.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's why I remember this whole thing so well.
All right, keep it rolling, folks. For Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Get out there, sell some screws, and we'll talk to you next time.
See you next time.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fasteners Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.
Looking to stay ahead of the curve in fastener technology? Then you can't miss Fastener Fair USA. The industry's must-attend event is coming to Music City Center in Nashville, Tennessee on May 28th and 29th. Discover cutting-edge innovations, meet top manufacturers and suppliers, and network with industry leaders at our opening night party at Honky Tonk Central, right on world-famous Broadway. Plus, your Fastener Fair USA badge gets you free access to the co-located Aluminum USA show, offering more business opportunities than ever. Register now at FastenerFairUSA.com. We'll see you in May.